Anxiety and depression is a very sensitive topic, I feel like, for a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of people just don't know how to handle it. Rather than going to see a therapist and getting on anti anxiety or antidepressants. So, when I actually met my husband 8 years ago, he introduced me to the paleo primal lifestyle. And initially, I was attracted to it because
You're listening to Wake Up with Patti Katter.
Wake Up with Patti Katter.
Where each week, Patti will interview guests that will motivate, encourage, and inspire you. Now, here's your host, Patti Katter.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, Wake Up with Patti Katter. And of course, I'm Patti Katter. Today, I have Melissa King with me. She is a certified is it a health coach?
health coach and personal trainer.
Okay, so I'm excited to have her on the show because looking at her website, it's all natural types of treatment for different things. And before we jump in there, I'm going to have Melissa tell you just a little bit about her upbringing, where she came from, and where she is now. So go ahead, Melissa.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, Patti. I'm excited to be here. So I actually had a really great childhood. I was born in Tucson, Arizona, but shortly after I was born, my dad's a retired geologist, and so he worked out in the field a lot. So he traveled a lot with his job. So I'm the youngest of three kids. I have an older brother and an older sister. My sister's the oldest. So when she was little, they moved around a lot because of my dad's job. And then we moved to Denver, Colorado, and lived there for about 5 years. So I got to experience like the snow and heavy winters, which was exciting, which actually helped me grow to love the cold weather. My sister went the opposite way and does not like the cold weather and the snow. My brother's kind of neutral. He lives on the East Coast, so
a little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both, kind of whatever. And then we ended up moving to Reno in the late 80s, Reno, Nevada. And that was our home my home for 22 years. We slowly, us three kids, slowly kind of moved away from home. I moved down here to Southern California just for a change of pace. I was really going through a difficult time in my life. Lots of anxiety, lots of depression, putting myself in unhealthy relationships and being at jobs that weren't the most positive environment. So I thought, well, I had an opportunity to come down to Southern California, move in with my cousin in a house that my grandfather bought in the early 60s after he had passed away. So I took that opportunity and moved down here. And my parents, we actually have no family in Reno anymore, friends there, but my parents actually moved to Austin, Texas to be closer to my nephews and my sister and her family when my dad retired. And then I met my husband like less than 2 years after I moved to Southern California. And that was it. Yeah. But it was really cool. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, a homemaker. So she took occasional like seasonal jobs, but most of the time she was home with us, there to take us to school, pick us up, go on field trips with us. So I honestly feel like I had a really great childhood.
That is so good. So I'm going to ask you a couple of tough questions and let me know if I go too far here. But
okay.
You were talking about you dealt with some anxiety and depression. So how was that like? And is there anything in particular that triggered it, or it just came up? Because I do know that some people, it just literally comes up. Nothing really quite triggers that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm totally an open book. So growing up, I was always a sensitive child. I always took things personally. My grandmother, which was my dad's mom, had a lot of issues with anxiety. And my dad and my brother both have had some mental health challenges as well. So I really feel like part of it's genetic, and I just got those genes because my sister never really experienced it until she was going through a very challenging time in her life, like later on in adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have dealt with it my entire life, even as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I also feel like, so when I was 18, right before I graduated from high school, I started dating this guy and everything was great. But at the time I was very insecure, did not have a lot of self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship it probably should have ended after a year, but we ended up getting engaged to be married. So we kind of went the
Wow.
opposite direction that it was probably not meant to go in.
Well, you're young, you think you know everything, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then we ended up ending the relationship about a year and a half after we got engaged. And I took it really hard. I sunk into a deep depression, my anxiety. I felt I really had abandonment issues
Mm-hmm.
and really suffered a lot from those, which kind of snowballed my anxiety and depression to make it worse. Yeah. So I feel like it was just in my kind of genetic,
Mm-hmm.
passed down to me genetically. And then I just put myself in situations and just didn't know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm. So what are you doing now? As far as I think that's going to connect right here with you dealing with your anxiety. How do you deal with that?
Mhm. Yeah, that's, it's anxiety and depression is a very sensitive topic. I feel like for a lot of people, and I feel like a lot of people just don't know how to handle it. Rather than going to see a therapist and getting on anti-anxiety or antidepressants. So when I actually met my husband 8 years ago, he introduced me to the paleo primal lifestyle. And initially I was attracted to it because I was training for my first half marathon. And he said, well, if you really cut out like the processed food and eat more natural food, don't train as hard, which I was like, well, that's weird, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Okay. Make sure you get adequate sunshine, adequate sleep, like quality sleep, not just quantity.
Which is huge. That's very huge.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's really big. And so I'll get more into that in a minute. But so I initially was like, all right, sign me up for this. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. I was very compliant at the time. And not only did I run my first half marathon and feel great, but I noticed the months after that my anxiety was lowered and I didn't have bouts of depression. So the number one thing that I focus on is getting quality sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep is when our brain, not just our bodies regenerate, but our brains, like the emotional part of our brains, can kind of relax, reconnect, and refresh themselves. And it's our way of processing things as well emotionally. So getting adequate sleep, which means I don't have them in front of me, but we wear amber colored glasses at night.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
huh.
I know. They're just like $10 off of Amazon. They're like safety goggles. I think they're considered safety goggles, but they're amber colored.
Mm-hmm.
What it does is it blocks the blue light from getting into your body, the blue light from like computer screens,
Right.
Lights.
Yeah, that's funny because I did a show not that long ago about sleep, but I focused on the computer screens and the TV, but I didn't really think about, I have these bright lights beaming on me right now even. And I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I didn't either. So what that blue light does is, which you probably talked about this in your sleep episode, is it blocks melatonin.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So melatonin helps tell your body, hey, it's time to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So, where we wear those at night when we, right now, especially since it's dark,
Mm-hmm.
when I start making dinner, when my husband comes home from work at night, it's dark out.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll put our glasses on. We also have we have 3 light bulbs in our bathroom.
Mhm.
One of them is an amber colored light.
Hmm.
So we flip that one on at night and just turn the other two off.
Oh my goodness.
So
Huh.
yeah, so when we get up in the middle of the night to use the
Mhm.
restroom,
Right.
we don't have to worry about like, are we going to be able to get back to
Mhm.
sleep? And
Mhm.
um, yeah, so sleep is the number one thing. So
Mhm.
making sure we go to bed at a decent time so we can get up early if we need to, and movement.
Mhm.
Just moving your body. It doesn't have to be a hard workout. It could be, in fact, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, it's actually best to go for a light run
Mhm.
or a light bike ride or just go walk, do an easy strength workout. Don't
Mhm.
do any high intensity. So, really kind of getting in tune with your body to know what kind of movement you should be doing. And then, really just eating whole, real, nutrient dense foods,
Mhm.
getting rid of the chemicals and the processed food. And that, I feel like that has really helped me turn off my anxiety
Mhm.
and depression gene and flip on the other genes that will help me thrive.
Mhm. I kind of think about the analogy of the light bulbs with the amber color and you have the fluorescent, but it's kind of like you just flip off the bad stuff and turn
Mhm.
on the good stuff.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And a lot
mhm.
of people, I found that a lot of people are like, oh, it's genetic. I'm pre-diabetic because it's, you
Mhm.
know, my dad had it or my grandpa had it or diet or heart disease, anything. And what a lot of research is saying is that you can switch your genes on and off depending on
Mhm.
your lifestyle.
Right. Instead of saying, oh, I'm predisposition to diabetes, I might as well eat this box of Twinkies, you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Huh.
Exactly.
Mhm. All right. So, what else do you do? Can you tell our listeners? Because I noticed there's so much on your website about natural healing and health and wellness. And what would you tell somebody, I guess, too, out there who may be struggling with some anxiety or depression and they don't want to turn to pharmaceuticals, or they've tried pharmaceuticals and they're not working for them, or they're giving them more side effects? Um,
Mhm.
what e- what else do you have to tell us? I guess that's a pretty broad subject there.
Yeah. So there's several things you could do. So I work primarily with women who
Mhm.
have challenges with anxiety and depression. And so, what I do with them as I'm coaching them, or even just training them, not necessarily health coaching, but working on a personal training program with them, is ask them, like, where do you want to start? First of all, what's your why? Why do you want to improve your life? Why do you want to decrease your anxiety? Why do you want to get off this medication? First of all, like your why.
Mhm.
And then what's one thing that you feel like you could change right now? What would be the easiest? Move your body, go to bed at a decent time, focus on eating whole, real, nutrient dense foods. Like I meet them where they're at.
Mhm.
And because if I just go and tell people you have to get adequate sleep, well, maybe that doesn't work for them in their schedule.
Mhm.
So really focusing on guiding them through a process where they could start creating healthier habits
Mhm.
to decrease their anxiety and depression. So I have an online program that people can buy just as it is if they're really self-starters.
Mhm.
Has worksheets in there, it has call to actions in each video. And I'm also working on starting up a group coaching program
Mhm.
a couple times a month. Um, so I would start with just like where they're comfortable starting,
Mhm.
where it's just a little bit out of your comfort zone, but not
Mhm.
too far to where it's unrealistic.
Right. That's good to know because I actually know a lot of military, not only veterans, but their caregivers. If they were wounded in war, they have a caregiver normally or a lot of times. And sometimes they use the excuse that they can't find the time or they can't get out of the house to go
Mhm.
see somebody. Do you do the coaching at all online with them other than, so you had said that you have some for self motivators, but so you do that as well?
Yeah, exactly. So, personal training I do locally in person. I
Mhm.
am working on a virtual training program.
Mhm.
That's a little bit more challenging, but the health coaching I've done a lot of that in the last year virtually. And I feel like a lot of people prefer that too, because we're busy. Like you just said, people are like, oh, I can't go meet you at this, at
Right.
coffee
Because
shop
sometimes, when you're driving, sometimes it could take, for me, where I'm located, it can take a half an hour with traffic to get almost anywhere. So if you can just pop onto your computer and turn you on, Melissa.
Yeah, exactly. And we have such great technology like Zoom, what we're using right now, that, we could be face to face and we could see each other and see each other's body language and really connect on a deeper level. But the phone is also just as great as well.
So what are your social media links so that people can find you?
So on Instagram, my handle is at Melissa K HBK. And my Facebook, I have Honeybee Wellness is my business Facebook page.
Which brings me to another quick topic. The honeybees. Do you actually have honeybees? Because the name, I'm just wondering.
I actually don't have honeybees. Maybe one day, my husband and I eventually want to buy some land. And so maybe, but Melissa actually means honeybee in Greek.
Oh, wow. Did not know that.
I didn't know that either. My mom told me that years ago. And I was like, I don't know about that, Mom. And I searched it and sure enough, she was right.
And it's a cute nickname.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I love it. So I decided to name my business after that because it's also like a symbol of, like, years ago, engineers said bees' bodies were too heavy for them to fly, but they do it anyway. I mean, now I think that aromatic engineers are like, wow, that's not necessarily true anymore. We don't really believe that.
It's interesting though.
But it's kind of like a metaphor for, like, you can go out and do anything you want, anything you want to be.
Oh, that's cute too. Melissa, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing those tips. I think those are important tips that everybody can work on. I know I'm sitting here thinking maybe I should podcast earlier in the day because of my lights, or I'm going to have to grab some of those amber glasses to wear during my podcast.
Yeah. And you can also buy like computer glasses that are amber colored that still block the blue light that I wear occasionally if I'm on my computer a lot during the day.
Next time you see me, I'm going to have these big sunglasses.
I love it. I love it. Great.
Well, thank you. And again, just share your social media links one more time. And we're going to also have them on the bottom of the screen, and we're going to have them listed on the podcast notes and all over my social media as well.
Yeah. So on Facebook, it's Honeybee Wellness. And then on Instagram, it's at Melissa K HBK.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa, for being on the show. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Patty.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And make sure you listen every Friday beginning at 5 a.m. and thereafter. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Wake Up with Patti Katter. Be sure to visit www.pattikatter.com for the latest articles, podcasts, and swag.